Luigi's Mansion was one of the GameCube's launch titles and still remains to be a great game to this day. It's not a masterpiece or a crown jewel or anything like that, but it's most definitely worth at least one playthrough, which won't actually take that long since you can beat the game in like 4 hours. But yes, it's a great game with great graphics, at least for 2001, and a nice atmosphere. The game is just overall a great experience. So here's the deal. Luigi wins a mansion from a contest that he didn't enter. Mario goes to check it out but doesn't come back, forcing Luigi to check it out himself. He learns that his mansion is infested with ghosts who have taken Mario captive, so with the help of Professor Egad, Luigi goes in there with a vacuum. Yeah. I always found it strange that both Luigi's Mansion and Mario Sunshine revolve heavily around cleaning devices strapped to your back. Speaking of Mario, this game was initially met with some confusion. People looked at this game and said, "Ooh, this isn't a Mario game, what the fuck is going on?" And then 2 years later they made Mario Sunshine and they're like, "Ooh, why do I have to clean shit with this totally awesome water gun backpack?" And all that time I was just sitting there playing these games thinking, wow, this is awesome. Anyhow, Luigi's Mansion basically has Luigi running around the mansion vacuuming up ghosts and copious amounts of money. As you go on, you find keys and unlock more of the mansion and vacuum more ghosts until eventually you save Mario. As stupid as it may sound, it is actually a pretty fun game. But here's the real question. How do you take this game and translate it into a Super Mario 64 hack? Well, that's what I'm here to investigate. So sit back and enjoy Super Luigi's Mansion 64. Now I just want to give a quick disclaimer, this game is actually still in its alpha form, so obviously some things may change when it's complete. Mario! I guess the first step of turning Luigi's Mansion into a Mario 64 hack would be to retexture everything. It's not a bad move, Princess Peach's castle is already in the game, so retexturing it and calling it Luigi's Mansion seems like a no-brainer. So naturally, in this game you play as Luigi instead of Mario. I mean, it's not as if it's Mario's mansion, now is it? So after you take in the scenery a little bit, you'll notice this shack off to the left here. I guess the idea is that it's Egad's lab, but when you enter it, you're taken to the mirror room, except the pictures have all been replaced by ones from Luigi's Mansion. It actually really ties it all together. This really looks like Luigi's Mansion. So when you jump into this painting, you're taken to the roof of some building which you immediately fall off because it's on a slope. Dick move, game. If you look around, you'll find that it's just the Boo Mansion level from the original except with different textures. I was a little disappointed by this and figured that the entire game might just be retextured levels from the original. So I decided to explore the overworld more to see if I was right. Fortunately, I was wrong. This game does actually contain some original levels, and as levels go, they're not that bad. Unfortunately, the vast majority of the levels are simply retextures of levels from the original. Some of them might have slight alterations or new obstacles, but in general you'll pretty much be able to predict much of what the game has to offer. The mansion itself is a different story, however, as the maker of this ROM hack actually changed many things, such as blocking off doors and putting death traps everywhere. In the original, the only way you could actually die in Peach's castle is if you went out of your way to kill yourself. But here, you gotta be careful because something that looks harmless could actually kill you. Stay vigilant. Regarding gameplay, there's really not that much else to say. Of course it's a Mario 64 hack, so the core gameplay mechanics aren't going to be any different than any other ROM hack. One disappointment is that Luigi himself seems to play exactly the same as Mario. I realize that making ROM hacks isn't exactly easy, but if Luigi had different stats than Mario, maybe if he could jump higher or do that weird flutter kick thing, that'd be cool. Generally speaking, putting aside the fact that you play as Luigi, the few new levels, and the aesthetic differences, the game is basically the same as Super Mario 64, just with a few curveballs thrown your way.
You are dead! Not a big surprise!
Let's talk about the graphics for a bit. I already mentioned that the game is largely a retexture of the original, so for the most part, I'm just looking at how good of a job they did. Well, for starters, I want to mention that some of the levels aren't retextured at all. The Lethal Lava Land, for example, is exactly the same. The only difference is that the bullies have these blood red eyes, which is a little freaky. When you look at Mushroom Mountain, you'll notice that there is a similar problem. Well, at least the mushrooms are a different color, but besides that, the level just looks mostly the same. Well, at least these zombie Goombas look pretty badass. In the desert level, we run into the same thing yet again. It's just the same level, except it looks like nighttime. As for the levels that have been retextured, the Snowman's Head level looks decent. It definitely has the creepier atmosphere going for it, but the long stretches of dark gray as far as the eye can see is a little bit unappealing. Then you got Tiny Huge Island, which is a bit of a mixed bag. Some of the textures seem different, but not all of them. The Piranha Plant looks pretty badass though. As far as I can tell, the original levels are the ones that look the best, which is to be expected because obviously the levels from the original were built with specific textures in mind and the newer textures were obviously specifically made for this game. It's not mind-blowing, of course, but it's a mod of a 20-year-old game, so there's really no reason to expect to have your mind blown. I'd say the best part of the game graphics-wise would definitely be the mansion itself. Like I said earlier, it really looks like Luigi's Mansion, and I stand by that because it really does. It has that old-fashioned, somewhat decrepit, and weird hang paintings on every wall feel to it, if you know what I mean. In other words, it stays really true to the aesthetic of the actual Luigi's Mansion. Overall, the graphics are okay, with minor flaws here and there. Now let's talk music. For a lot of the game, the music is generally taken from the scary-themed levels from various games of the Mario 64 era. They have some from Banjo-Kazooie, they have some from the actual Luigi's Mansion, Then you have this weird take on Frantic Factory from Donkey Kong 64, which honestly starts out sounding like something you'd hear on Game Boy. I'm not trying to be an asshole here, but seriously, it sounds like something from Mario Land 2. On second thought, maybe that's not really a bad thing. Hell, I love me some good old-fashioned Mario Land 2. The music is okay in general. Some of it could use some work and maybe the game could use a bit more variety, since quite a few of the levels actually use the exact same music. And while it's true that the same thing could be said about the original, I'd say it would have been nice if the original had a bit more variety too. But that's Luigi's Mansion 64, or at least the alpha version. I just want to say that I went and did some research and some people are saying that this game actually has a completed version, but unfortunately I've been unsuccessful in finding it, so this alpha version will have to do. But if any of you know where to find it, feel free to let me know. In the end, this game shows a lot of potential for the complete product while also remains pretty fun of its own right. I'd recommend it. And I'd also recommend the actual Luigi's Mansion. Anyway, I just want to wish everyone a happy Halloween, or at least I'm hoping it's still Halloween when the upload's finished, but realistically you'll probably be watching this in November. But just pretend for a second that it's still Halloween, alright? Happy Halloween. Alright, there you go. This has been another game review by Phantom Bane. Have a good day, everyone.